The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain where they could be alone. And there Jesus was transfigured before their eyes. His face shone like the sun, and his clothes became white as light. Elijah appeared to them, as did Moses, and the two were talking with Jesus. Then Peter spoke to Jesus. Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make three tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While Jesus was still speaking, a bright cloud cast a shadow over them, and then a voice came out of the clouds. This is my beloved, my own, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell prostrate and were very much afraid. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Rise, do not be afraid. And the disciples raised their eyes. They saw no one else but Jesus alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus gave them orders. Do not tell the vision to anyone until the promised one, the Son of Man, has risen from the dead. The good news of salvation. The gospel reading today describes a very significant religious experience of Peter, James, and John, and a significant experience also for the Christian community. The liturgy preparation group highlighted the rich Jewish symbolism of the sacredness of this moment. The high mountain where we go to experience God. Clouds, which represented the presence of God. Moses and Elijah, representing the law and the prophets. And a face like the sun in white clothes, representing the inner reality shining forth. How can we relate to this experience of the Transfiguration? I invite you to think of a moment or event when you had a deep and unforgettable experience of God. It may be hard to put into words. Perhaps this occurred during a retreat or a time of deep prayer, a transformative sharing or breakthrough with a very close friend or partner, a special moment during a liturgy, a sacrament, or Bible reflection, holding a newborn daughter or son, or embracing God's wonder in nature. I myself remember a very strong personal message I received from God when I was in a classroom as a student at CTU. I was taking a scripture class with Carol Stuhmiller, Old Testament scholar. I still remember sitting where I was in a seat in the classroom in our old 5401 building, and he was reflecting upon the call of the prophets. And when I was sitting there and reflecting during a class, but as he was reflecting on that call of the prophets, I said, God is speaking to me right now. I was in the middle of a very challenging year. I was in a discernment year, deciding whether to take perpetual vows or not. I had some major questions that I was asking of God. And at that moment, there I was in a classroom, and it came to me. I said, It didn't solve all the problems, but it came to me, and I still remember sitting where I was at the time. It was very significant in that way. I also remember a very profound moment of reconciliation with a colleague in Papua New Guinea. I thought it'd be impossible to resolve that conflict. But with God's grace, at that moment, we were able to do that. One of my aunts described her religious experience of listening to Christmas carols before midnight mass. Whatever may be the situation, we could share Peter's sentiments during the Transfiguration. It is good for us to be here. It's natural to wish that such experiences could last a long time, like Peter, James, and John wanting to pitch a tent. Jesus also told Mary Magdalene not to cling to him after his resurrection. So how do we carry that moment of God's touch into our ordinary lives? Such as when the disciples were coming down from the mountain. Or how does the fruit from a retreat continue to nourish us afterwards? On one hand, it can help us to remember and grasp the big picture. The disciples saw Jesus, Moses, and Elijah, and they realized that Jesus fulfills the law and the prophets. Daniel, in the first reading, he saw all peoples, nations, and languages coming to the Son of Man. So we too are invited to see the bigger picture of God's plan and the movement of the Spirit in both those extraordinary and those ordinary moments of our life. Furthermore, these transformation moments do not only provide memories for the mind, but inspiration for the heart, with a message of faith, hope, love, courage, and justice as we meet the challenges of daily life. Jesus touched the disciples as he did in his healing ministry. He told them not to be afraid. As we heard the second reading, Peter is reflecting back on that experience on the mountain, and he's encouraging others to be attentive to those special moments, those revelations, as a lamp shining in a dark place. There is a light despite apparent darkness. In the reflection for today and Give Us This Day, Michelle Franco-Donway spoke about daily life after a transfiguration moment in this way. Jesus reaches for us in the dust and says, "Get up, be opened, that you hear my voice, that you might be my voice, and above all, do not fear. Walk with me and be transfigured. Walk with me and transfigure the world." This made me think of three moments in Transfiguration. The first is the Transfiguration to show us more clearly who Jesus is and who God is. The second movement in Transfiguration is that, like Peter, James, and John, we are to be transformed and transfigured. The third movement, we are to be witnesses and invitations for the transfiguration and transformation of others and the world. Jesus' transfiguration, our transfiguration, us as an instrument in the transfiguration of others in the world. I never quite thought about this on this feast day before. I'm going to close with the powerful words of the Liturgy Preparation Group. Although the disciples wanted to stay on the mountain, reality is staying on the journey with Jesus down off the mountain for the long haul through all difficulties. We need to visit the mountaintop, but not stay there. Quoting Jack Shea, say not, I've been to the mountain. Rather say, I've returned to the earth and I'm walking toward Jerusalem.